Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre, Am I the A-Hole? Our first story is from user DeafBaby456. My ex and I have one child together. We found out during my pregnancy that our child would be deaf and wouldn't qualify for the surgery that some deaf people are able to get due to a combination of problems. While the external issue is a fluke, the internal issue is apparently something that I always had a 25% chance of passing down to a child. Not to toot my own horn, but once I learned this, I made an effort to start connecting with a deaf community in my area and learn ASL. He did not, and while he stayed for the birth, he moved in with his brother right after dropping me off at home. I owned the house and did before I met him, so it's not part of the divorce. He was nice enough to give me 2 months worth of a cleaning service and a gift card to Grubhub. He ended up telling everyone that I am the reason he doesn't see our child and that I filed for divorce because I overreacted. The truth is that I have sole custody because he cried in court that he couldn't deal with the baby and wanted to just pay support. While I did file, it was because he abandoned me and said so many horrible things that I couldn't get over. I have text messages he sent me which say that he wouldn't have married me if he knew that we would produce problems, and that he couldn't handle raising a R. The only thing wrong with her is hearing. I don't want my child to grow up in a home where she's hated. I was starting to hear all sorts of crap from my family and his, who started to take his side because divorce isn't really a thing here, so I took action. I made a social media post publishing the text messages so that people would finally see the truth. I'm now getting calls and messages for making a private issue public and parental alienation. Am I the a-hole for telling everyone exactly why I'm getting divorced? So let's go and check out the community comments. Not Michelle says, "This guy has no business smearing you and damaging your reputation. You did what you had to do to set the record straight and nobody can fault you for that." Undecided says, "Not the a-hole. If someone lies to make you look bad, you have the right to air clean laundry." CC33 says, "Not the a-hole. Publishing his text messages is a bit over the top. He started the fight with his lies. You just defended yourself with the truth. Good for you." Evolution Cocktail says, "Not the a-hole. Dude's a jackass who can't be bothered to learn sign language for his own goddamn daughter. She may have inherited hearing issues from you, but let's pray she does not inherit a-holery from him." And Metal Mom 0617 says, "Not the a-hole. Parental alienation would imply he wanted to be a parent, so that's not applicable here. He's the one who tried to play victim, so he has nobody to blame but himself for the fact that you showed the receipts proving him to be one of the worst humans imaginable. He should have just paid his child support and shut the hell up." To which OP replied, according to him, he wanted to be a father, but not to this. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with the community that OP is not the a-hole for, blasting her ex for being such a douche? I don't think she's the a-hole. I think the ex is definitely the a-hole. You don't get to make up lies and then when you get called out, harass the person that called you out. No. But that's just my opinion, and now it's time to move on to the next post. This one is from user Triple Colore. "My sister gave birth to my niece 3 months ago and it was very traumatic. She was in labor for 25 hours. Her husband was only allowed in with her for the actual birth. None of our family could be there because we live in another country. The recovery has been going very slow and she is very vulnerable. As borders have opened up, I got in my car and drove to see her. Took me about 48 hours. In our culture, it is normal for a mother to come stay with the new mother for a few weeks to get her settled. Our mother is long dead, so mother-in-law has filled that role as she only lives down the street. Mother-in-law was there when I arrived and made a whole ruckus about how she didn't understand why I was there. She got it all under control, etc. I ignored her. My sister looked awful and started crying when she saw me. We got about an hour to talk amongst ourselves before mother-in-law interrupted, telling my sister she had to get the baby its feeding. My sister just said no, it wasn't her time yet, it was still her nap time. Mother-in-law told my sister she should raise her child the way mother-in-law told her, since all her sons turned out perfectly well the way she did it. Apart from brother-in-law, they are all spineless, so I wouldn't say I agree with that. She was just there the entire day. She didn't notice that my sister wanted to be left alone. She kept trying to take my niece out of my arms. No, that's not how you should hold her. Telling my sister her house was so filthy, but never offered to help clean. Kept hovering around the child until she made her cry. Complained my sister didn't have the right milk, etc. She was just there, but she wasn't helping, and her comments were hurting my sister, I could tell. My sister was just quiet and tired all day. So at about 5 p.m., I told her to go have a nap, and I would look after the baby. As soon as she did, mother-in-law tried to take the baby from me again. I was happily bonding with the little bundle and told her to stop doing that. She was making the baby fuzzy. Mother-in-law told me I should respect my elders and that she's raised 2 adult sons on her own. I told her I raised 4 children and that she should either help out or get out. She did not like that I said that and asked me who the hell I thought I was. So I told her that her presence was nothing but a nuisance. Her advice wasn't welcomed, that I didn't appreciate the disrespect she showed my sister, and that if she had nothing to say or anything helpful to contribute, like cooking, cleaning, actually helping, then she should leave. Mother-in-law was crying when she left. When my sister got up from her nap, I told her what I did, and at first it seemed like she thought it was funny. But then she got anxious and told me that mother-in-law was going through a very hard time since her own infant daughter died at 6 months, and that I really shouldn't have said all that since now mother-in-law's entire family was going to be nasty to her. I know I ruined my reputation with that family, but I also don't have to live with them. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my sister's mother-in-law? The overall consensus of the community is that OP is not the a-hole. I'm not gonna read any community comments on this one because OP gave us a pretty good update about what happened after she kicked mother-in-law out of the house. When brother-in-law came home, my sister told him what I said, and as I expected, he was on my side. Told y'all he's an awesome guy. He's been very worried for my sister as well, but since he works as a doctor, he's been out of the house almost 24/7, and initially thought his mom being around might be a good idea. Brother-in-law and sister talked about it. I wasn't present for the conversation because privacy, and they decided brother-in-law would talk to his mother about needing to step back. That happened yesterday while my sister, baby niece, and I were out going for a walk. Brother-in-law later joined us and just said that mother-in-law was not happy that she missed the baby, etc., but that he had made sure to talk to her while some of her siblings, aunts, uncles, were around, and they were apparently telling mother-in-law that she could not behave like that towards a new mother. Verbatim, one of her sisters apparently told her, "You can't do that, mother-in-law. Remember how hard it was for you with your first child. You can't act like that. You need to support her. She is your family." So I'm holding out hope that brother-in-law's family is pulling together to actually offer my sister some help now. So far, we've only met a few of them from a distance so they could coo at the baby. I feel okay about leaving now. Oh, and FYI, people keep bringing it up. I went to her doctor's appointment with my sister and all 3 of us talked about my sister potentially having PPD, postpartum depression. She's pretty much back to how I know her since I've been here, but I wanted to make sure to talk about it with her and her doctor so someone would have an eye on her. Brother-in-law knows too. And that's it. What do you think? I think OP, regardless of what was going on with the mother-in-law, was totally justified in kicking her out. She was not being helpful and was actually making OP's sister feel bad. So now let's move on to the final post. This one is from user Throwaway23907. My stepdaughter, 25 female, is staying with my wife, 44 female, and I, 40 male, temporarily. My son, 15 male, stays with us every other week. He has online classes while the rest of us have to go to work, so he's alone at home for a good while. Last week, he decided to make a video and used my stepdaughter's bras as props. He dyed them, cut them up, and used them as slingshots, etc. She was extremely upset and said that they were practically unusable afterwards. Apparently, she also uses high-end bras that cost $85 to $90 a piece. I can't wrap my head around that price tag. I know my wife doesn't spend more than $50 on a bra. However, he destroyed 5 bras, so that's about $450. I don't think that's a reasonable price to pay for just 5 bras. My son had $200 saved up and offered that, but she was still upset. My wife sided with her. I don't think making a 15-year-old who clearly can't afford $450 pay the whole thing is fair either. She can buy 5 cheaper bras for $200. Am I the a-hole for refusing to make my son pay for the bras he damaged in full because I think they're too expensive? Oh, I've got a reply for this guy, but first, I'm gonna read the community comments. Guy Noir P says, "You're the a-hole. Yeah. It's probably not reasonable for your son to pay $500, which is why you, as the parent responsible for your son's behavior, need to pay whatever he's unable to. Very, very odd you think you know what's best for your stepdaughter's breasts. Imagine if you owned a sports car and someone trashed it as a joke, then offered to buy you a Camry because you don't need a sports car." To this comment, Ninja Shepherd replied, "Literally came here to make the sports car analogy. Sorry about the Ferrari, but I can't see why anyone would spend $350,000 on a car. Here's a Toyota instead. You're the a-hole. Your son can pay the $200 to learn his lesson, and you can pay the missing $300 to learn yours." And then Tyresias14 says, "Major, you're the a-hole, and your son sounds like it too. By 15 years old, doesn't he know not to touch other people's stuff and not to ruin other people's belongings? Oh my god, I can't imagine being your stepdaughter and realizing that a 15-year-old kid had come into my room and taken in my undergarments and handled them like that. That's downright violating. You seriously need to have a major talk with your son because it doesn't sound like he has any understanding of personal boundaries and responsibility. Make your son pay for the property he damaged so he learns a freaking lesson." So yeah, I think we're all in sync on this one. OP is definitely the a-hole and the son is also an a-hole. In my opinion, first of all, he's a 15-year-old kid. Like the last commenter said, shouldn't he know not to touch other people's belongings without permission? And you, OP, refusing to pay because you don't think bras should be that expensive? What do you know? You've never worn a bra, have you? There is so much wrong with what OP and his son are doing that I'm just gonna cut my commentary to here because I could go on. And so, we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys liked it. If you did, go ahead and click like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. Also, don't forget about the Lost Genre subreddit for you to share stories or cross posts from other subs. Alright, and having said all that, I will see you guys on the next video.